Hi everyone, it's the Film Scholars. We're a bunch of regular guys that like to talk about films. I'm Assad, aka the Warrior Scholar, and with me my co-hosts are...
I'm Awais and I've recently graduated in digital media.
I'm Fahad, one half of the Bearded Bros.
And I'm Hamza, your average moviegoer.
Today we're going to talk about War for the Planet of the Apes, the recently released film with Andy Serkis in its lead. So Awais, what did you think of it?
My opinion for this movie, before going into it, was really high, given that the first and the second one were possibly two of the best movies I'd ever seen in my life. And then with the third one, the expectation was really high as well. So going into the film, sitting in the cinema, I was getting really hyped, really hyped. And the first couple of scenes hit me really hard. Warning, there will be spoilers, so if you have not seen the movie, it's not the best to listen to at the moment. But the first scene that hit me, when the Colonel murdered Cornelia and Blue Eyes.
That was a crazy scene, and that was really well directed. It was the first time that you saw the Colonel, and it was a very hard hitting scene. There was almost no dialogue at that point, and everything was slow, and it became like hyper realized.
Do you think that in the whole film, the dialogue is actually kept to a minimum, and it actually builds the tension?
I think it was very good how they did that. It wasn't a film that was too heavy on dialogue or exposition dialogue anyway either, which was good. It suited the theme of the film, which was generally quite dark and more like a survival story rather than the war film. The second one was a bit more of the war film. I think people expected more of a war film, but this was more almost a Western-esque.
Yeah, 100%. Like in the second one, you do see that war-esque side, and the third one, as Assad has said, it's not a conventional war movie as written in the title. We see more of an internal conflict with Caesar, given that he has grown on our screen and we've developed a kind of relationship with Caesar as he grows and develops into this big leader. But now in the third, he faces a big struggle as he's going to war, and this is 15 years after the first one. So did you see the difference in Caesar's personality?
Yeah, I did. I also saw the way in which the other apes look at him. There was a very striking scene where Caesar goes to the camp and everyone stops and turns to look at him almost like a religious savior. And this reminded me a lot of, I believe it's Terminator 2, where they do the same to John Connor. He's like the promised one who's going to come and save them, and they just stop and kind of like in the end scene where he just says, apes are strong without Caesar because he's so integral in their life that he brought them out of slavery not once but twice now, and he saved them over and over, that they become like quite emotionally attached and reliant on him.
Yes, that's it. Again, in the scene where Caesar was kept captive by the Colonel, he had a meeting with Rocket. That was after Nova, the little female character that was in there. She was human, but she took the side of the apes. She couldn't speak. She was a mute because the simian flu caused a slight disease and it didn't allow
it mutated, just taking away humans, which kind of leads back in full circle to the original Planet of the Apes, because in the original Planet of the Apes, nobody knows why the humans lost their ability to speak or think.
That's it. Personally, I wanted to watch the previous Planet of the Apes, but I've not seen them, so I've only seen this trilogy, and my question is this better or...
That's a very hard question. They're different films. The original one is very, very good in its own way. Obviously, we're talking about the Charlton Heston one, which is a very different style of film. What I feel is like the old films were from the human point of view, and this film is very obvious that they were from the ape point of view, because you wonder. I mean, when I first watched the films, I was like, why is James Franco not? I mean, he was really good. I liked him, and he was like the human's introduction to the world. But after that, they on purposely didn't keep any human characters because the focus had to be on Caesar. And by keeping any human, because remember, Caesar's being portrayed by CGI, so it's easier to empathize with the real life and blood human being on screen. Yeah. So I think it was a design choice that way to be story of.
I think they did quite a good job in that the film is actually very heavy with CGI. Most of the ape characters, but they still got a lot of character and personality, which I think a lot of other CGI full films kind of fall short on, and they're like kind of crappy.
Yeah, what they did was
Lord of the Rings 3.
Not only that, they put a lot of effort into the CGI rather than what people do is like last minute, oh, we can't do this, let's put a bunch of CGI and save the film. They did concentrate a lot on the characters. I mean, Caesar's been built up after all these years. He's like, the film is great as an individual, but it's great also as a part of the whole of the trilogy. Caesar's grown up and he's matured. He's very much a human character, and I think the part of the story is that once they get the intelligence, the apes are very much the human characters.
That's it. Due to the motion capture, like we can see emotions, and we can see what the character wants to express. So with Andy Serkis, he's used to this situation before. As he's mentioned, Lord of the Rings, Stardust Gollum or Smeagol, whatever you want to call him. They've used experienced actors.
Can I interrupt?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Perhaps the only good thing to come out of King Kong was that Andy Serkis was very easily trained to be an ape.
That's it. And the CGI in this, it was on another level in the way that it wouldn't disturb the movie. And
It blew me away. I was like, are these real apes or is this CGI? It was very, very hard to tell.
It's not like Green Lantern. And I have opinions about DC, but this is not the time.
We'll be doing that. We'll be doing that podcast a different time.
Surely. So yeah, if we get back to talking about War for the Planet of the Apes, sorry. Now we've talked about Caesar's character.
Can I just jump in one sec? You guys are talking about the CGI. My question is, how is it so different? Who did it? Did someone else? Did someone different to undertake this as compared to normal, or who did?
It took them a long time to produce the film. So they did a couple of things. They did. They had them wearing those suits, the video capture suits, and they used it for their expressions as well. They used what appears to be a very, very good team. The thing with CGI is, the thing with general filmmaking is, what you put out, what you put in is what you get out. Effort very, very clearly shows whether it's CGI or practical effects. The more effort you put into CGI, the more you get out of it. That's filmmaking 101, I think.
But I think it's not just that. If you look at this film or in most other films, CGI is used for like big special effect action films
to make it easier, yeah.
But if you look at this film, they're using it for capturing like mundane monkeys walking around talking to each other. There's not, even though it's titled War for the Planet of the Apes, there's not that much action in the actual film. So I think that's another aspect of it to kind of show that CGI has multi-purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the CGI in this, we actually need the CGI to explode the
narrative. You have to have it, yeah.
Without the CGI, there'd be like monkeys in suits.
I think one thing this film does great is the suspension of disbelief. If you notice throughout I'm going to talk about earlier films. In the first film, Caesar's the only one to talk, and he says very few words. As time goes along, you see the apes, they communicate mostly through sign language, only the powerful ones speak. And so it's actually believable that the apes can communicate, because we're used to seeing apes do sign language in zoos and stuff like that. And when Caesar speaks, I watched a video, I think I showed you, how Andy Serkis spoke as Caesar, and he slowed his speech down to make it less human, and it makes it that much more believable that if this could actually happen.
That's it, yeah.
Why you gotta say big words like suspension of disbelief? Explain that to the people.
Suspension of disbelief is
when... he's like, what the heck?
You can ask me any questions you want, that's what you're here for. Suspension of disbelief is when you when you think that this film could actually take place, when something stupid happens, like that breaks the film's own internal rules. So it can be a sci-fi and you can still have suspension of disbelief. But if you create a rule and then you break it, or
that's it.
If the apes started standing up and talking like humans, then you'd be like, what? It just wouldn't work.
Yeah, and if they started dabbing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, when the flow of the movie just going and you're synced in and you're absorbed and you're watching.
You're absorbed in it and you're not thinking that this is a film.
And then Ed Sheeran shows up. But yeah, that's something else. That's Game of Thrones. That's another podcast we're gonna do shortly. Yeah.
Trying too many shots at different films.
Yeah.
So wait. Going back to, I think, the point Awais was making is around, we talked about Caesar as one of the big characters. What did you guys think of the Colonel? Let me just give my thoughts first. I thought they did a really good job, especially in the first couple of scenes. They built up this image of the Colonel, that he's like this godlike figure.
Almost like the devil for the apes.
Yeah, that's it. And then when you see him...
Or if we're going for the religious analogy, he would be Pharaoh and Caesar as Moses.
Yeah, and even that first scene that you see him, he's done such a heinous act, and I think it backs up that he's like this evil guy, and then he goes on to enslave all the apes. So it's just...
And can I point out, he's killed Caesar's firstborn. And if we go back to our religious analogies, sorry, it's just coming to me right now. Did not Pharaoh want to kill all the children of
Moses?
Yeah, the people of Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I can't remember the actor's name now, but
Woody Harrelson.
He's a very good actor.
I love Woody Harrelson.
He's done so many different roles. You know, he did Now You See Me 1. He was like this comedy guy. Now You See Me 2 is crap, so let's not talk about that.
I've only seen that.
He's Hamish in Hunger
Yeah, he
Games.
does a lot of different.
He does very different roles, and he does it very well.
I liked the fact that they built this big confrontation between Caesar and the Colonel up, and in the end, the Colonel got. What happened to him was he was infected, and it was his worst fear, and he'd killed his own son. And Caesar, at that point, kind of like let his hate go, and he couldn't bring himself to kill him.
That's it. That's when Caesar, he had that downward spiral into hate and everything. The fact that he didn't kill the Colonel, it showed us that Caesar's more of a leader and he takes responsibility.
Don't you also think that in the different films, they kind of showing the different aspects of human emotion and behavior? First, you got that
Through the Apes, you mean?
through the apes. The number two, you know, it's the ideal society. Ape doesn't kill ape, no crime. Everyone's like fun loving. But you can see in this one, it's different. He kills that other ape, you know, the white one. I can't remember his name. Winter, which is quite a twist, and he's going on this revenge mission to kind of kill him, and it kind of shows
almost lets his people down because he wasn't there. They kind of get captured.
That's it.
It's showing the range of human emotions in apes.
Let's talk about Nova and her necessity, the little girl that couldn't speak.
A lot of people, they didn't like that she was a huge part of the story, but
Idiots.
I felt that this goes full circle where James Franco, also known
That's
as
a
Will
very
Rodman,
good point. Can you carry on?
also known as Will Rodman, he helped Caesar grow from that little child, taught him more or less everything, gave him the family aspect, brought him up nicely. And I need to talk about Koba in the situation because his upbringing was the opposite. That's why we see both of their storylines completely change and they have difference of opinion.
About Nova, Caesar initially wants to leave her, but Maurice says she'll die. And it kind of like when he takes her, it's almost like it brings him back to his roots almost, to where he started from. And I felt like that compassion towards humans is kind of like what separated them.
As you said before, that Caesar, he has just love not just for humankind and apes, it's just for everything, just for nature, for life.
Yeah, I think Caesar is one of my favorite all-time characters in any film.
I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
If the Colonel was not infected at that point, would Caesar have killed him?
Very likely.
He would have. But then would that kind of... Where would that have sent Caesar? Would that, you know, in terms of you guys talking about spiraling down hate and setting an example for the other apes?
That's it, because that's one of the climaxes in the film that we reach. If Caesar was to kill him, then I think that would really be a Caesar thing to do. So it's building this up, and it's like
it's character progression. Caesar starts off as wanting peace. His family gets killed, and then he wants revenge, but in the end he realizes like revenge is not really going to get him anywhere.
Exactly.
Also, even while he's kind of going for revenge, you can see his priority is his people. Even when he has that, he breaks out. The first thing he does is try to get the children apes out, help his apes escape, and then he goes to revenge. So he never actually fully focuses on revenge as his like primary goal. He's always got his people in mind.
And when the Colonel wanted to build a wall, Caesar stopped all the apes from working and said they need food and water.
This was a very, very dark film. That first scene where he tells him that they need to carry on working, and he goes and he shoots that other ape. That was quite harsh.
Stuff like that needs to happen if you want to be a leader. But you said this was a really dark film.
Yeah.
There was a character that I didn't really like. Other people liked him, but...
Do you want Bad Ape?
I'm talking about Bad Ape. So as you're saying, suspension of disbelief and stuff, he was there cracking jokes, but
I see where you're coming from, but with a film this dark, you need comedic relief. Otherwise, it's very difficult to watch.
Maybe it's down to personal preference, but
I thought they could have done a really bad job, and I think they pulled it off.
I pulled it off well, and it also showed a different side of apes.
It was exposition without being exposition.
Yeah, 100%.
It showed the humour side of apes, which actually hasn't come out in other films. The apes haven't shown it.
They were just too serious.
That's why I didn't really like it, because the first movie and the second movie, they're really serious. And obviously there were a couple of funny bits, like I mentioned in the second film where Koba went crazy and then he was dancing about when he had the gun.
Yeah.
And then he actually shot the two humans. But that was slightly funny. Maybe that was like...
But Bad Ape was also like a point to the wider world that apes have survived and they've also gained intelligence, because... I mean, even in the second film, it was like they felt that it was just them. but now it points to a wider world, and possibly it does look like they're leading on to somewhere.
Do you guys think that they tried to, I don't know, draw similarities to the slave trade? Maybe.
Yes, definitely. It was a film that was kind of about slavery as well. Maybe a bit concentration camp.
That's it.
Esque as well.
Because from the first, the humans were used for experiments and stuff. The apes were used for experiments and stuff. So they're worthless from the first.
Yeah.
And then in the second, they slowly gain their wits about them. But what we realise in the second film is, it's Malcolm. He approaches Caesar to get help for the dam. And then there's all the trouble with Carver having a gun. And Cobra kills Carver because of all the stuff he's done. So we see that. But
I feel Cobra didn't kill Carver for that. I felt he killed him just to use him as an excuse to assassinate Caesar.
Cobra's a savage. But I don't blame him because of what the humans done. As we're saying, him and Cobra are different.
But he tried to kill Caesar and burnt down their house.
True, but if taking it from Cobra's point of view, he's only seen the bad side of humans. He was experimented on. Literally, when he gets freedom, he doesn't see the good side of humans. They run off into the jungle. And then, I don't know how many years pass, but him and Caesar are best friends. No human contact, so they have a big relationship.
China comes in,
when he sees the humans, that's the first time that Caesar is tested. And he sees that why is Caesar being so compassionate towards these humans? Why is he helping him so much? He doesn't see it from Caesar's point of view that humans have compassion and they're nice, because he's never seen that.
Because the first time you see Caesar and Cobra together is he helps him free, and then at the end, what's his guy? Who does James Franco play?
Will
Rodman. He comes into the forest and Cobra nearly attacks him, and then Caesar comes in and he has to defend him.
That's when they had that conversation.
Yeah.
Caesar said Caesar is home. So
Yeah.
that's the natural progression we saw from Caesar. Any questions, Hamza?
No questions. I'm just wondering that you guys mentioned film 1 and 2 as well. And I just thought that when you think about film 1 and film 2, the theme, the way the filters the filters that they used, or the sun was very bright. The first one was very bright, and he was like a baby growing up, and the second one slightly darker. Third one was very dark. Just
a lot of it took place at night.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting the way they portrayed the way the film is like. I'm kind of struggling for words here, but the tone. That's it. Yeah, that's the right word. The tone of the film, just using the colors.
That's a very common directorial technique. I mean, the second and third films had the same director, Matt Reeves, I believe.
Yeah, Matt Reeves. Yeah, first one was Rupert Wyatt.
Yeah, but because it was produced so well, it's very difficult to see that there was different directors or wildly different directors.
That's it.
Because it was just been done so well.
Hold on. There were different directors in all three.
No, the first one had a director. The second 2 and 3 had the same one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, when they first came out, I didn't watch this in the cinema. I thought back to 2001, Tim Burton's failure of Planet of the Apes.
That was disgusting. I put down for 10 minutes and then turned it off.
When he sold out for action figures.
Yeah.
And when the Planet of the Apes came out, I was like, I'm not gonna watch it. Then I heard that it had pretty good reviews, so. Then I watched it and I was like, wow, this is pretty good. Second one came out and I thought, no, they can't carry on being good. But I'll go to the cinema to watch it. And then it was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then the third one came out, I was like, they can't hit a hat trick.
But like me, for the third film, in my personal opinion, I think the second movie was the best. Dawn was the best by far.
I like the first one the best because of just Caesar's coming of age.
Then you can slightly see the directors are slightly different with the process.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I do like the director in the second and third. It's not down to director. It's probably more down to story and screenplay.
But the thing is, now that, let's say, they've done quite a rare thing of a trilogy of films that's done actually very well. I'm not sure how much money it's grossed with.
They've done well.
Critically, it's done well. Is it sellout time with the fourth film though? Because they dropped some hints. I think you were telling me about. So I think there's a spaceship going to Mars in the first one.
Yeah, for recap, in the original films, a spaceship is sent out to explore other planets, and then it crash lands on a planet. Now in this one, in the first one, they hinted that a spaceship was sent out. In the second film, in the beginning, it says that the spaceship has been lost. It's possible in the fourth film that spaceship will come back, crash land, and find a planet that's overrun by apes, and the humans cannot speak. It's possible, or maybe Cornelius will grow up.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, do you reckon they will just? I mean, the story could end here. But I think that because of the success, there's going to be a fourth.
Caesar's story has ended here, but the studios will carry on with a different story.
Just for money, I think.
Yeah, I was reading it and I read that there was going to be a spin-off series set with a different set of apes. Like nothing to do
film
with
series.
That's another trilogy that they wanted to do, but a spin-off one. It shows like a totally different side of apes. Like how the apes that we saw had Caesar and a leader and stuff like that, and they're going to war. They said these apes are going to be totally different. They're not going to have that leadership. So we're going to see their progression as well.
It'd be interesting to see because obviously those apes potentially, if they're from the wild, they would have had different upbringing.
Yeah.
Or if they were from zoos and human captivity,
Yeah.
well, you know, then obviously they.
Whether it's about money or not, I mean, films like Planet of the Apes show that you can make a good film and make money at the same time. And it's all about how much. Generally, it's all about how much time and effort you're willing to invest in.
Yeah, one thing you got to think about is these films, they've been spread out over a number of years.
They didn't rush them.
They didn't rush them because obviously you got to have that story writing, get the scenes right. Because a lot of films, once the second one has a lot of success, they're like, let's rush.
Or even the first one, Matrix, we're coming for you.
They rush the other films in order just to get turnover per year.
Yeah, because what happens is, as always, the studios go, hey, look, the first film did really well. All right, we'll give you the money, whatever you want, but the film has to be out in 2 years. And 2 years is 2 or 3 years is a very short amount of time for production, especially from screenplay, because screenplay is kind of like writing a book, so you probably need a couple of years for that. Some of the best films have had their screenplays revisited for over 10 years.
It's true, and yeah, are you gonna go? Yeah, like we were talking about sequels.
Yeah.
Transformers, the first one was decent. But now look what they're giving us now. Just
I don't want to go
CGI.
too much in Transformers.
Michael Bay's a failure.
That's it.
I think that the only thing that I really liked about it,
I think it was a nostalgia.
Nostalgia and giant robots fighting. The story was garbage.
Yeah.
But let's not go into too much of that
Yeah.
detail. Another crap CGI
for
film.
another day.
Lads, what do you guys think about the names of the second film and the third film? The second one's called Dawn,
Right,
and the third one's called War, but there was no fighting in the third one. And I can kind of see the word dawn maybe switched around. Why did they do that? That's threw me off.
I'm not really sure. You know, it was war because the third one decided the fate of the planet, of who's gonna be the dominant species now. You see, in the second one it was a small scale struggle.
Yeah, because we see in the third one the war isn't actually between the apes and the humans. The humans have taken the apes captive, and they did have a couple of shootout scenes, like the first scene in the film where the humans went to attack the apes at the stronghold or the base, or whatever you want to call it. But once they held them captive, there was really no threat. The threat was from the army, the military that were coming down to face Alpha Omega. So we see Caesar help the military basically by shooting the fuel tank while wiping out Alpha Omega.
A quick thing: Alpha Omega was the name of the nuclear bomb in Planet of the Apes 2, which blew up the world in the end of that one.
Wow.
Oh, is it?
Alpha Omega. It was a giant nuclear bomb that was worshipped by these mutant humans.
Oh.
What did you think of Donkey, the gorilla that was traitor? I saw him as a Judas because at the end he kind of like sacrificed, almost committed suicide to help Caesar and redeem himself.
See, like, you know, when you have the characters have that fast turnaround, that little second where you get to appreciate like where they stand and the opinion change, it's good because it grows on you and then it makes you emotional. Then you see, at that time, that's what you needed.
Some people have compared the wiping out of, you know, the army wins and the big avalanche. Some people compared it to, you know, Moses parting the Red Sea and the Egyptian army came and the river thingy.
Alright, go on. You've wanted to talk about this. Just talk about the religious references.
Okay, religious references. I mean, Jesus allegories are very, very common within film. And at first, I thought Caesar was almost he had no father. He had no father. In the second film, he kind of died because the film carried on like he had been dead, and he kind of came back to life. But it could be seen as a Moses as well because he brought his people out of bondage, you know, and he took them to the promised land. And I believe it was pretty much called the promised land. Caesar was in the third film was crucified. He also died from a stab to the side of him, just like a spear that hit Jesus.
Oh.
So there's a lot of religious allegories that are there.
He also kind of gets betrayed by Winter.
Yeah, that's right. Like
as actual Judas,
as a
who gives up
Judas.
his position.
There's no such thing as original screenplay anymore.
I mean, we should one day talk about Jesus allegories because they're common everything. RoboCop, Matrix.
One thing,
all over the place. Very common.
Did you guys notice in the first couple of scenes, or where Winter lets that donkey guy escape? Well, he doesn't let him escape, but you find out later on he does, and he has that head.
Yeah.
From that point on, I was very suspicious of Winter. Was that just me, or did anyone else pick up on it?
He was a new character, and it was like,
and then
if Rocket had let him escape, you'd be like,
and then even when he says he's like, we need to get out of here now, I was thinking, what's this guy's problem? And then when Caesar kind of says apes stronger together, and they all raise their hands up. If you actually notice, Winter doesn't do it.
No, I didn't.
And I thought he's done them over. Something's happening. Yeah. I'm just a very suspicious character.
So then again, in the first scene, there's possibly a chance that Winter let the other ape escape.
Yeah, no,
he did.
He did let.
He said it.
Oh my days.
He did.
That's he's scared, and even Donkey as a character, although he comes across as tough and like. He's actually fears for his existence, and that's why he's made.
That's why he's with you. That's why he's with the humans.
He thinks the humans are going to win because. It's going back to Hamza's point. This film's called War for the Planet of the Apes, but this actually takes place right at the end of the war. Yeah. You know, we're told 15 years later the apes have been on the run. There's loads of these skirmishes going on.
If they had done a film with the war taking place, that's been done before.
Typical war movie.
It would have been a typical war movie. Yeah.
Lads, we haven't discussed Koba, the star of the film.
Yes.
Okay, let's go. We did discuss him a little bit.
Very briefly.
Koba is a very interesting character. In the they built him up in the first film, and in the second film, his first thingy is to save Caesar and his son. Yes. I always felt that Koba felt betrayed by Caesar, that he was siding with the humans. That's why he took
Especially when he beat him up in it.
No, before that already.
The dam. Yeah, but I think the dam scene where he beats him up quite badly and he almost strangles him.
Koba did kind of threaten him.
Because from the start of the second film, we see the doubts growing in Koba's head. And once he addresses the doubts, he gets battered, which isn't good. And that's when that's the domino effect. It starts like the Koba basically took over. When he was taken over, in my opinion, he was a good character, but when he's taken over, he killed Ash. Rocket's son, and we know Rocket's one of the most loyal apes out there because he was in prison.
That battle scene in the second film is one of the most conflicted battle scenes I've ever watched. Because firstly, I didn't know who was going to win. Secondly, I didn't know which side to root for.
Yeah. I'm going to say I felt I was rooting for the humans purely because they were being attacked, and you can see the emotions from their side. Whereas when you look at the apes. Koba has no care for his apes,
but his apes are afraid themselves, so they're also fighting out. If they feel they've been attacked,
but they don't in the scene. They don't show it.
The
apes are just like this hoarding army. He kind of looks around, they're getting killed, but then he jumps on a horse, gets 2 machine guns, and starts. That
was awesome.
Rapid fire.
That was amazing.
That's his name.
That's
the leader of the humans at that point. I can't remember his name.
Gary Oldman. Brilliant acting.
Oldman. I mean, he's done some crap films. Like what's that blind one? We won't go into it. But in this one, he came across that he really cared for his people, and when they're sending him to the wall, he's worried, and they're like fighting for their survival.
Gary Oldman's character, Dreyfus, and Koba are not that dissimilar in the film.
Yeah.
They all both judge actions from their point of view. Dreyfus has only seen the bad side of apes, the threatening sides, and similarly for Koba. So when Dreyfus wants to blow the tower up, in his mind, it's the only way he can save his humans.
Yeah, that's it. They all have like the separate narrative.
I mean, the only truly asshole character is Kava. He's like, I'm going to carry a gun just because.
But I think that's one of the... What you just mentioned there is a very good point, that in this film, we're able to see different character side of the story. You got Dreyfus, you can see his point of view. Koba, Caesar, the Colonel. You can see these characters, where they're coming from. And they did it very well in the way that you can empathize with each of them.
Yeah.
In a strong way.
Yeah, and because of the different characters and different motivations, we see how well that the 3 movies tie together.
Yeah, definitely. We're coming up to the end now. Any more questions? Any questions? Any closing questions?
Oh no, I threw mine in there randomly. Sorry.
Okay, boom! Rapid fire. Who's your favorite character?
Koba.
Caesar.
Caesar's obviously the best.
Oh no! Wait, what?
Caesar's obviously the ultimate character.
For me, Caesar. I would have done what Caesar did, but for me. I would have done exactly what Caesar did, but I kind of respect Koba for what he did.
One thing, the problem I have with Caesar is he's very naive.
Yeah.
I don't think he's naive. I think he knows what he's doing.
It's a difference of opinion. I thought he's naive, that he didn't see the bad side of humans, that they're just jackasses.
All right, we're gonna have to call it an end there. If you have any, like our podcast, any criticisms, any future reviews you want to do, anything you want to tell us,
any movies you want to discuss,
make sure you share this.
Just send it down, and that's it for today.
thank you.
Like, share, comment, subscribe. It do us a lot of help, but we do it because we love movies. But yeah, Assad.
No, that's it. All right, we'll see you next time.